Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven JavaScript video. I'm recording this on August 21st, 2012, picking up where we left off in the last episode, and what we had just finished doing is writing a little spike that would serve a file. Now it does it in a very basic way, and it's definitely not complete, but if we go ahead and connect to that, we'll see that that happens. Now if we look at the console, it does complain that the character encoding is not declared. There's other stuff that we're doing wrong as well, I'm sure, in terms of potentially handling caching and other commands. So we don't want to continue doing this manually, but this is, again, a good starting point. What I'd like to do now is just test drive this, and then once we have some tests around this, we can possibly look at switching out and using some middleware, using Express or using one of the other mini static file servers there are out there. So let's go ahead and write that test. So we've got this server serves a file test, which right now does nothing. And what we need to do is, well, first we need to write a file. Now I am writing this as an integration test. That is, I'm actually going to write a file to the file system, and I'm actually going to read it back. That isn't the only way we could do this, but because the unknowns here are not really design unknowns, they're very straightforward unknowns about how does Node work. If we do swap out to some middleware, does it still work? Because these are the kinds of questions we have, these are the kinds of tests I want to write is, getting the file to the file system. Does it actually come off the file system? Does it actually go through HTTP? Those are the real issues at hand right now, and that's why I'm writing integration tests. As we get further along, we'll be doing more and more unit testing. Now, and one thing I want to be really clear on is not everybody agrees or understands maybe that test-driven development isn't just for unit testing. All sorts of testing you do in your work can be test-driven. That is, and it's just as simple as having small tight loops where you're writing your test and using that to drive the rest of your efforts. So although I'm not writing unit tests, although I'm writing integration tests here, it is still test-driven development because I'm using the tests. I'm writing the test first, and I'm using that to influence and inform the design of the code. So let's go ahead and write this out. Now, here in the file system, we have a method called writeFileSync. And as anybody who's familiar with Node will tell you, you're not supposed to use synchronous methods in your production code. And so we're not going to do that. But it is okay to use synchronous methods in your test code. And a synchronous method, of course, is one that Node will wait for it to finish before it returns to you. And that means you have less callbacks to deal with, and it makes your code a little easier to write. So let's go ahead and write a little test. And we're going to write, it takes file name, data, and encoding. We don't really need the encoding. So the file name will be, well, I think this we're going to want to put into a directory that we can conveniently blow away. So we're going to want a clean target. Let's make a directory called generated/test. So this generated directory, what I'm thinking is where we'll put all of our automatically generated files so that if we want to just clean everything up, we just delete that directory. And then test will be for test files. That's my thought right now. So to do that, we'll need to ignore the generated directory. Okay. So let's just start out by writing and let's see what happens if we just do that. Obviously, we're taking this in really small steps. Okay, it failed. No such file or directory. What would happen if we made the directory in question? Yeah, now it works fine. Good. And if we look at that, then there it is. Okay, good. Now, another option would be to, rather than create it in the generated directory, to put it in our operating system's temp directory. And that could be pretty useful. That might be simpler, actually. Do we want to do that? The advantage of putting in the generated directory is that we can look at it very easily. We can step through and we know where the directory is. The temp directory usually has a sort of weird random name. I think, I have dealt with this before. I believe I've done temporary files and doing tests with Node before. So I'm going to take a moment to look at how I've approached this in the past, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. The way I've dealt with this in Node is exactly the way I'm looking at doing it here, which is to say that I just put it into a temporary directory. So let's go ahead and just keep going down this road. So we've got this writing our files. Now the problem with that is that it's not going to work on the integration machine because we won't have the generated directory there. So if I remove the generated directory and then run our files, it fails. So what we need to do, we could either create those directories right in our test code, or we could just assume that they're present. And I think I would rather assume that they're present. I want to say that the test depends on our temp file dir, or temp test file dir. Yeah, we can just set a directory. So our temp test file directory is going to be and should be able to just do that and have it create. Now Jake should automatically create that directory for us. Except it isn't. What's wrong here? Oh, let's try it that way. And lint doesn't recognize that, but I think that's just lint. There we go. Yeah, that's looking promising. Good. So, and now let's make a another little task for cleaning, which will delete our generated directory. There. And now generated file is gone, but if we run Jake, it will create it. And it's there. And now it's gone. Okay, so we want it to create and clean like that. Okay, so now that we've got that working, let's do one more bit of cleanup. And we also need to make sure, yeah, it works fine when we run it twice in a row. Some tools don't like it when you clean twice in a row. I think I've had that problem with Rake actually. So I think that should do it. Okay. So now back here, we're writing our file. Now what we need to do is confirm that it's loading it. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to take this code here. Well, actually, no. I think we also need to make sure that it deletes the file after it's done. So let's see. I think what we're looking for is called unlink sync. Yep, here it is. And we just give it that test file. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that that file is missing. All right, that's may not work, but that's all the time we have for this episode. Oh, looks like it worked. And it's gone. Cool. So we'll pick up with this next time. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll catch you next time.